Sirius is a binary star system located some 8 light-years from Earth. The two stars are separated by approximately 30 astronomical units, about the distance from Sol to Neptune. The main star supports 4 planets. The secondary star supports 5. Sirius A4 supports advanced complex sentient life. Modern Sirian is a human, with a biology and DNA virtually indistinguishable from terrestrial humans. Sirians have been evolving for something on the order of 700,000 years and achieved spaceflight some 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. The Sirians quickly colonized or occupied the planets of their home star. The nearby stars, most within 2 light-years, were colonized or occupied within the first 1,000 years of spaceflight. Around 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, the Sirians arrived at Earth and established colonies in 3 locations. These locations were chosen for the abundance of resource and farming opportunity. These locations were the Indus Valley, ancient Sumer, and the Nile River Basin. The Sirians left a lasting impression on early terrestrial human society, partly due to their indiscretion and the fact that terrestrials learn incredibly fast. The arrival of the Sirians proved pivotal to the development and evolution of terrestrial humans. At the time, most terrestrials were nomadic hunter-gatherers. The Sirians brought the beginnings of civilization and technology, with the arrival of agriculture, stock rearing, more advanced pottery, and metallurgy. Terrestrials had much to learn. But by the end of the first 1,000 to 2,000 years, most terrestrial humans had all but mastered the technologies copied from the Sirians and had begun to improve as the Bronze Age began. By this time, the Sirians were beginning to experience troubles. In the Middle East, bands of terrestrial warriors would attack the more remote Sirian settlements, creating the need for wider distribution of available technological defenses. In the large cities, these issues compounded the already strained relationship between the Sirian homeworld. The need for advanced defense and weapon systems went unfulfilled for the most part, and the remote colonies began to fall. When the need of the Sirian colonies was finally responded to, the situation had degraded to the point that the colonists no longer wished to remain on Earth. The Sirian homeworld's response was a military one, and provided no options for returning the colonists to Sirius. The colonists revolted, though they had not the manpower, technology, nor hardware to mount any kind of fight against such forces. Realizing they could not prevail, the colonists, with their remaining technology, scattered in all directions, forming small presences in many other geographic locations. The Sirian military placed Earth in a sort of siege state that was to last some 5,100 years. As the outer colonies dissolved and under the pressure of active human rejection, the survivors were assimilated into the terrestrial population. There are many resulting terrestrial stories. Over time, those of the upper class of Sirian disappeared into seclusion and found methods to control the terrestrial population. The best manner to provide these needs was the institutions of government and religion. These methods have worked over the centuries and remain today the preferred method of control. The survivors have created their own myth and legend. These stories persist today in 2012 as stories of the Illuminati, the elites, or the powers that be. This group remains pure Sirian in genetics. Of the other survivors, nothing remains except for a mark in the terrestrial human gene pool. Approximately 2,000 years ago, after hundreds of years of peaceful, friendly relations with members of the Orion group, and in response to the ingress of the reticulan response in Sirian Orion space, the Sirian and Orion governments formed a strong alliance, naming Capella as their government planet. In this combining of strengths, the 7 Sirian worlds joined forces with the 6 Orion worlds, The resulting 13-planet alliance became the dominant force in a volume extending 79 light-years in radius around Sirius. Although challenged by both Reticulan and Draconian cultures, the Sirian Orion Alliance remained the dominant presence in this volume of space. War and conflict seem an almost inevitable consequence to venturing forth from one's home world. Over the past 10,000 years, the Sirians have been involved in several conflicts in which Earth was also involved as an innocent bystander. Unfortunately, Earth has also suffered more than its share of collateral damage. The original rebellion of the colonies was the first, and while terrestrials didn't suffer many deaths, the development of terrestrial humans was irrevocably altered, and its rate increased. With the addition of Sirian DNA into the terrestrial gene pool, the fate of terrestrials was all but sealed. Sometime around circa 1500, both the Reticulan and Draconian civilizations discovered Earth, an apparently unclaimed planet with good resources and a developing but primitive advanced life form, terrestrial humans. As they began their exploration of Earth, the Sirians arrived to defend their possession. The resulting aerial combat was observed and recorded by people of the time. The second altercation resulted in more of a standoff with understandings than any clear victor. The Sirian Orion Alliance weren't prepared for the primal nature and fierce aggression of the two more primitive societies. War became a matter of logistics and will. The Sirians had the logistics, but the Reticulan and Draconian elements had more will and drive than expected. As the Reticulans and Draconians realized that they were each outmatched by the Sirian Orion Alliance, they formed their own, albeit short-lived, alliance. This alliance lasted for several hundred years, degrading to semi-friendly respect and occasional cooperation. It was this alliance that brought the war to a standoff. Some 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, Sirians achieved space travel approximately on par with terrestrials in the mid-1960s. Their space program didn't progress quite as fast as terrestrials have, but they did learn their lessons well. Over the next several hundred years, they had built an impressive array of technologies. They had colonized other large bodies near their homeworld, had learned to build field drives for their spacecraft. Their technology was about equal to technology today, circa 2012. By the end of the first 1,000 years of spacefaring, they had colonized the nearby star systems and were reaching for more. Yet they still had not discovered the key technology that would allow longer distance travel, and would not be until that important discovery that they would be able to reach Earth. Today, Earth has all those pieces of the puzzle, yet has yet to realize and understand. In almost all other areas, terrestrial science and technology seems to be at most a couple of hundred years behind the Sirian Orion Alliance. The Sirian overlords of Earth, estranged from their homeworld for some 5,100 years, await the arrival of the first Sirian elements from their homeworld. The Sirian Orion Alliance, being fully aware of the state of advancement of terrestrial science and technology, are preparing these very first elements for launch. The arrival in Earth's sphere scheduled for late December 2012. The arrival of this SOA presence will mark the fulfillment of several prophecies made by terrestrial seers over the past 2,000 years, both biblical and non-biblical. This will mark the beginning of the first space war that terrestrials may be involved in. The Sirian Orion Alliance holds a conviction that Earth is yet a possession, and the remaining pure Sirian individuals constitute a colony, thus giving them clear ownership of Earth. Their intent upon return is to secure Earth for the SOA. This will mean the dissolution of all terrestrial governments and the installation of Sirian governors. These governors are likely to be the very same as those who have tried for so long to control the terrestrial human population. Now their presence and power can be revealed. Earth will be subjugated. Currently, terrestrials have a weak defense against such force. While terrestrial technology is advanced enough to deal with the SOA, there has not been enough time to build and deploy the defense systems. Earth's best and only hope is its newly formed and deployed planetary defenses. Earth's planetary defense is composed of a group of 9 spacecraft that can be thought of as a carrier class, manned by international crews. Each of these ships are the responsibility of its owner member, though it is under the command of a special task force of the United States Space Command. This task force is comprised of high-ranking military officers from the member countries and other representatives of the G8. Of these craft, the United States of America owns 3, European Union 1, Great Britain 1, Russia owns 2, and China owns 2. These craft are patterned after the terrestrial aircraft carrier and are intended to launch up to 125 smaller combat craft. The smaller space planes are Earth's newest and perhaps most capable air spacecraft. Often mistakenly called a TR-3B, it actually has little in common with that craft. This craft is propelled by a smaller gravito-electromagnetic field drive than the carrier and is powered by a combination of high-output fuel cells and batteries.